Welcome to SYNC-O-WICZ, hosted by the fearless Linda SYNC-O-WICZ. She's syncing you up with the latest in election integrity, from breaking headlines to critical updates you won't hear anywhere else. With Linda, it's facts first as she leads the fight for one vote for one legal voter. Stay informed, stay empowered. Let's jump in.
Hi, and welcome to SYNC-O-WICZ. My name is Linda SYNC-O-WICZ. I'm the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud, and you're watching us on OBBM Network TV. This is episode 24, and I got to tell you, you can also find us on YouTube and Rumble as well. So this week, my guest is Julie McCarty. She is from True Texas Project. She'll be on very shortly. The 6 states that we're going to talk about this week are Alaska, Florida, Kansas, North Carolina, Texas, Virginia, and our national information is going to be on Pennsylvania, and our vote notes is going to be on Michigan. We'll also have our trivia question in between. So right now, let's jump quickly to Julie. Welcome, Julie.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. Now, we want you to tell the audience about your organization, how long you've been around.
Okay, great. So we have True Texas Project. We actually started in 2009 with the Tea Party movement. And then at our 10th birthday in 2019, we changed our name to True Texas Project. The media had successfully destroyed the word Tea Party, right? But we still have the same basic principles of fiscal and social conservatism. And then we went statewide. So instead of just being one location in Tarrant County, Texas, we now have 26 locations around the state of Texas. So now we're 16 years old.
Wow. You have been around a very long time. We've only been around 7 years for Fight Voter Fraud. And I think there's probably only a couple others in the country that have been around close to as long as you have. But you guys are doing absolutely fabulous work.
Thank you.
So do you want to tell the audience about what your organization does for the state of Texas?
Sure, absolutely. So our mission statement is that we educate and motivate political involvement. So, Plato says, those who refuse to be involved in politics will be governed by their inferiors. We want to get people involved in politics, just the everyday grassroots normal person who doesn't have time for politics. We try to make it easy. So once a month at our 26 locations, we bring in speakers to educate you on the hot topics. And then we have a training program called a Certified True Texan, where we take you through 5 classes of basically everything you need to know as an activist. And we have conferences. Maybe every year or so, we'll have a conference where it's just an all day, lots of different speakers on lots of different interesting topics. So our goal is always to educate, but never to do it without an action item. We don't want to just get angry and do nothing. So we're always making sure people know what to do, who to contact, just to make a difference in Texas. And so now we have what we call a statewide army, and that's what we're doing. We're making a difference in Texas with just regular, everyday people.
Excellent. And you're always following everything that's going on in the legislature.
We try.
Have people that go up to the you go up to the Capitol.
Yes.
On some very hot topics. And even though, we're about election integrity, you're about everything for Texas that's going on.
We try. So we just got the stats. Texas is only in session for like 5 months every 2 years. And we were there every Tuesday, at least, during the whole session that just ended. And True Texas Project ended up ranking number 6 in organizations that were sending people to testify or to, share a position on issues. The other 5 were all paid lobbyists. And so this was just, again, everyday grassroots activists showing up in Austin to make their voice heard. And to have that ranking, we're like, wow, that's amazing. So it's working.
That is. And I actually had the opportunity to testify for one of the bills, and the process is very streamlined in Texas.
Yes.
You
Yes.
actually go in, whatever bill that you're going to be talking about, you type your name into the computer, you have your stuff, and then you're called.
Yeah.
So I loved how everything went, except for the fact that I was supposed to testify like at 8 in the morning,
Yeah.
but then we got interrupted. So I wound up testifying at 8:21 p.m.
Oh yeah,
on the
that's not
day
a
that I
rare
was
story
there.
either. Yeah, that's not a rare story. But I love that you say that you actually went and you were able to complete the process and make it happen, and it wasn't too scary, right? I mean, you did it. So
Oh,
that's our goal, is to
not at
show
all.
people they can do this. Yeah,
And the
that's
bill
awesome.
that we testified for actually was one of the ones that got passed. We had put an amendment onto Bill 1470, and it was passed and it was signed before all the debacle of the extra session. And how did
Right.
you guys handle that with having to go up there and then finding out that the Democrats had fled the state again?
I
Was it
mean,
as
that's
crazy as we saw?
par for the course. First of all, we anticipated that happening. But it's not the first time they have fled. It's not the first time the House has pulled a bunch of shenanigans. It's what they do. So our goal is always to educate the voters on, these are the gimmicks. These are the games. It's a whole class that we offer on the games and gimmicks of the state legislature.
Yeah, I thought that was just really crazy what we were seeing. And each year you're actually, or every 2 years, you're trying to put in laws to make them stop doing what they're doing.
Right.
So I didn't get the update. Were those legislators actually fined the $500 a day
I believe
for
they were. I think they were actually fined 3 times the amount, or maybe they're trying to pass a bill that makes it 3 times the amount. There was some very, very minor slap on the wrist, which will mean nothing to any of them. But I think they're enacting things for next time. So it's always next time, we'll get them next time. But this time, no. It was
I know
inconsequential.
you have got a wonderful attorney general in Texas. I
We
mean,
do.
Paxton is on top of
Yes.
everything.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem you have are the Soros judges that are throughout the state.
Yeah.
That has
I
had
think
an
that'll,
impact on. Yep.
yeah, those all came in while people were asleep. And thankfully, we do have a Ken Paxton around to say, hey, get an eye on this. This is what's going on. And now we're more and more aware. So, like everything in politics, it's a slow moving train. Like, we can get really upset about something, but you've got to be patient. And it takes, maybe one session you raise awareness, and the next session, oh, you might get some votes, but not enough votes. And then the next section, okay, we can get this passed. But, then 6 years have passed. So it's a slow
Yeah,
process.
it takes a while. I know with the bill that we had the amendment put on, we were piggybacking on everybody. And the bill that we thought it was going to make it through, it didn't, which we were surprised, but we were very grateful that we at least got it on one of the bills.
Yes. So you were able to get it on as an amendment?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
So it was
that's when the tricks work in your favor.
yeah. Well, I think it was something, again, like only 13% of the bills actually get passed during a session. So you're looking at 87% of bills that are up in Texas that aren't going to make it where it needs to go. And
Yeah.
you again had mentioned that with Texas, it's every 2 years that you're in session.
Yeah.
And then you had the 2 special sessions. Do you think they passed or got everything through that you really needed to see go through this past legislative session?
Oh, no, absolutely not. One of our top priorities for the past 6-8 years has, maybe even more, has been stopping the taxpayer funded lobbying, and the House killed it every time. They kill it every time. So,
the Senate passes it multiple times.
yeah.
And you're right, it gets to the House. But now you got I don't go into the redistricting, but obviously Texas was the one who brought that to the forefront here in the United States. I think it's excellent that you got the redistricting done. And one of the things that people don't understand is that the redistricting was actually more in the Spanish speaking districts, if I'm correct.
It absolutely was. I'm not sure that the controversy really didn't need to be there, except that, the left loves to attack the right and the right loves to attack so it's just a lot of drama. And honestly, I was a little disappointed with it because I know we could have had 9 or 10 seats and we settled for 5. Like, I really felt like that would have been a great punishment for the Democrats that fled the state. Like, okay, well, you're going to take your ball and go home. Well, we're going to go for 9 instead of 5. But I don't know. There were conversations behind closed doors and people made deals and it's done.
Oh yeah, that's one of the crazy things I saw with the lobbyists and everybody who's talking to whomever they're talking to. And it's like when we came in February concerning the bill that we wanted introduced, I mean, I was brought to like half a dozen different people, the ones I met with, and they're talking about it, putting it together. Then you meet with the attorneys and then you talk about the cost. And it's a lot that goes into getting a bill passed. And that's in any state, I guess. But that was my first time actually seeing how bills in the legislature actually works. So I wanted to ask you, what are you most proud of that your organization has done in the last 16 years?
In 16 years, it is so hard to come up with just one thing. But I want to say, I think it's the fact that we have built our reputation on honesty. So we are very, very outspoken, and you might like it, you might hate it, but you're going to trust us. And I think people know that. The people that really despise us, they know we're saying the truth. And even our friends, they know we're going to hold you accountable. We're going to call it like it is. We're going to be unemotional and put friendships aside for the sake of Texas. And we're going to share the truth. So I love that. That makes me proud.
And also apologetic. Yes. You got to do what you have to do.
Absolutely. And we'll take the hits. I mean, the media comes after us, people cancel on us. They get our venues canceled. We'll take it. And we're going to keep going because it's the right thing to do.
Well, your organization is doing a phenomenal job, which is why I reached out to you. After I had told you before we came on, I was sort of not really stalking your organization, but for the past year, I've been watching what you've been doing. And I'm just like, I definitely needed to have you come on and tell everybody about True Texas Project. And how does someone get involved?
So we're all over social media. You can go to any of the social media sites and find True Texas Project. But our website is truetexasproject.com. It's got our calendar, our beliefs, a bunch of how-to videos, pretty much anything you're going to need is on our website.
Excellent. So I want to thank you, Julie, so much for coming on our program, SYNC-O-WICZ. Thank you so much. And I know we'll have you on again in the future. Thank you for being on.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you. And we're going to go to a quick break and we'll be right back.
Infamous ballot drop box.
Wanda's been arrested.
Around the world, people are aware of Wanda, the ballot stuffer.
When fraud cancels you.
3 other Bridgeport Democrats were charged.
It's outrageous.
Take the freedom of our vote.
You gotta fight.
We're supposed to have quick justice.
Linda SYNC-O-WICZ is the election integrity watchdog in America's corner. Digging into the data to scrub the voter rolls clean. Protecting your rights. Respecting our Constitution. For years, Linda's mission-driven advocacy has helped preserve the Republic, exposing corruption.
The Chief State's Attorney's Office is not doing their job.
Speaking truth to power. It's pretty simple. One vote for one legal voter. FightVoterFraud.org.
Join the Army.
Hi, and welcome back to SYNC-O-WICZ. My name's Linda SYNC-O-WICZ. You're watching us on OBBM Network TV, and our guest was Julie from True Texas Project. She's absolutely fabulous. So make sure you check her out, or check out True Texas Project. Thank you. All right, we're going to go to our first state. And this week, we're talking about Alaska. Now, Alaska reports that there's 70 possible non-citizens, or non-Alaskans, who attempted to vote in the past decade. A document submitted to the submitted by the Alaska Division of Elections to our Department of Justice in response to a nationwide data request names 70 possible non-citizens who voted or attempted to vote since 2015. And that's in state or local elections. So Carol Beecher, she is the director of the Alaskan Division of Elections, says there's no evidence of non-citizen voting changed the results of last year's elections. Okay. Alaska was complying with the Department of Justice request, and this was from last month. So the inactive list includes 540 people whose voter records were tagged also with NC, meaning non-citizens. So there may be more than just those 70. The officials in Alaska are saying that the number may change and may or may not be accurate. They're trying to walk it back, basically. How can it be, yes, sir, it's accurate, no, it's not accurate? It's either it is or it isn't. But anyway, we'll see what happens with that. But I also have to thank Alaska Secretary of State's office for actually complying with the Department of Justice request. So thank you. Now we're going to go on to Florida. This Florida story is from the Miami Herald on September 5th. Miamians won't get a vote on the election change after commissioners' no-show meetings. Now, this concerns a story we've talked about before. Remember, they actually had put it through that they were changing the election either from even to odd or odd to even years, which would have given the mayor an extra year as well as the commissioners. Well, that went through the whole court process, and they were basically told, no, you can't do that. So there's a question that was supposed to go out to the voters. So Miami voters won't get a chance to decide on moving the city from odd to even year elections this November after only 2 of the 5 city commissioners showed up for a special meeting. After the public backlash and months-long court battle, Miami Mayor Francis Suarez and Commissioner Damian Pardo agreed to send the proposed change to a ballot referendum, which would have let voters decide when the city should hold elections, which is how it should be. Well, Suarez called for a special session, but on Friday morning, only 2 of the commissioners showed up, Pardo and Ralph Rosado. Commissioner Miguel Angel Gabella, he was out of town on a pre-planned trip. A spokesperson for the chairwoman, Christine King, said she was feeling under the weather. Commissioner Joe Corallo said he had a prior commitment related to a family matter. So it took them 45 minutes before the city manager, Art Noriega, announced that the meeting was canceled due to lack of quorum. Friday was the deadline to get on the November 4th ballot, when Miamians will cast votes for a new mayor and 2 city commissioners. Lots of big legal back and forth. They only needed 3 commissioners. 3, that's all they needed to show up for this. So the 3rd District Court of Appeals had denied the rehearing of the city's request for a rehearing of the case. Really? You need the commissioners to be doing their jobs and to be available for this. You know, I can understand somebody being already pre-planned out of town, but having your spokesman say you were just feeling under the weather, you couldn't call it in for a couple of minutes to vote on that. And now this is what you did to the people in Miami. They're not going to be able to vote on the referendum after all these months of all this stuff that was going on. It's crazy. All right, now we're going to go to Kansas. Kansas, this is from the Hayes Post from September 1st. Kansas Secretary of State acts on a legal opinion and drops the GOP candidate for governor. Kansas Attorney General Chris Kobach says state law requires Republican gubernatorial candidate Doug Billings' name to be removed from the list of candidates because his declared running mate went and quit. Billings' running mate, April McCoy, is to be asked to be removed from the ticket and have her name scrubbed from the August 2025 primary ballot meant that Secretary of State Scott Schwab was obligated to terminate Billings' candidacy. There's no mechanism to replace a running mate under Kansas law right now. Kobach's opinion, remember, the Attorney General, said, while remaining member is free to find another running mate and pursue ballot access, he must do so as part of a new candidacy. Schwab, who is Kansas's Secretary of State, is also a candidate for the GOP nomination for governor. Well, the best thing that was done is that it was turned over to the Attorney General for opinion. So at least that's above board. But Kansas, you're going to have to do something about that little bit of a loophole when you lose one of the candidates before the primary. Well, you already know that. Okay. Now we're going to go on to North Carolina. North Carolina, this is from the Reflector on September 5th. Former Surrey County election chairman's residency is in question. Now, the North Carolina election law requires that Board of Election members be registered voters in the county they serve. That makes sense. And board members also must meet residency requirements to vote in local elections. So James Yoakley resigned as chairman of the Surrey County Board of Elections in August following his arrest on felony charges. So Yoakley was arrested on August 28th on charges including felony child abuse and possession of controlled substances, and he posted a $100,000 bond and resigned his position the same day. Now, court records have uncovered his address not being in the county that he was serving as chairman of as the Surrey County Board of Elections. The State Board of Elections declined to comment on potential residency violations, citing ongoing legal matters. Yeah, I'd say there's some issues there. So that's things sort of unravel when you do something else that's bad, then all of your stuff actually winds up coming out. What's that? Tisk, tisk, tisk. Notice I have no idea whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, but it doesn't matter. You need to follow the law. So now we're going to go to Texas. Texas, this comes from Bloomberg Law on September 5th. Texas GOP sues the state over refusal to close primary elections. Now, the Republican Party of Texas is asking a federal judge to end open primary elections, saying it leads to subterfuge from moderate and left-leaning voters who cross over to GOP ranks for the purpose of opposing the party's preferred candidate. Now, Texas doesn't register their voters by party. That's something I wasn't aware of until recently. Instead, voters can choose to vote Republican or Democrat primary when they check in at the voting location. That's crazy. Last year, the Republican Party primary ballot asked voters if primary elections should be restricted only to registered Republicans, and nearly 3/4 of the voters said yes. Well, legislation was proposed that would have closed primaries, went and died in session. Secretary of State Jay Nelson now refuses to close the primaries. So even if it's the will of the people, with everything that's going on, again, the legislature stalled this. So the next step is to court. And the case is the Republican Party of versus Texas, ND Tex number 2:25-CV-00200. And it was submitted on 9/4/2025. I would look it up by the date and just put in there the Republican Party of Texas versus Texas. So that's another one that we definitely want to be following. Like I said, I think it's crazy. If you have a Republican primary or a Democratic primary, only the people in the party should actually be voting on it, because it definitely can be skewed. We know how in the past we've had people switch parties to be able to vote in primaries. Well, apparently you didn't have to do that in Texas. You can just do it that morning. Okay, so now we're going to go on to Virginia. The source is from the Fairfax County GOP. It's from September 2nd, 2025. And I do want to throw a special thanks out there to my friend Kathy for forwarding this information. Kathy is just absolutely fantastic and was critical in the beginning of Fight Voter Fraud moving forward when she had reached out to us. But we're going to leave that story for another day. So again, Kathy, thank you. So the Fairfax County GOP poll watchers, it's urgent. They need help for this 2025 election. Now, the early voting in Virginia starts on September 19th. Virginia actually has a voting season. It's insane. I believe it's like 45 days of early voting. That is absolutely something that needs to be changed, because that's crazy. 45 days. All right, so that's why they need poll watchers are needed in Fairfax County. The training is readily available, and there are many different dates that you can choose from. So reach out via email to Barbara Tengs, poll watcher coordinator, and you can reach out to poll watchers at fairfaxgop.org, or you can call Poll Watcher Scheduling Line, and that phone number is area code 703-397-8129. So Fairfax County voters, you can do your part by helping your community by signing up to be a poll watcher. And I should note, although this came from the Republicans, there must be Democratic poll watchers as well. Like I said, we're trying to be nonpartisan, but I was reached out to by the Republican Fairfax County GOP through one of their members, and that's why we're talking about it this week. I would be more than happy to let people know about stuff from the Democrats if they would actually send me something, which you can send it to info@fightvoterfraud.org. Right now, we're going to go first to our quick question, our trivia question. Of the week. Which president served in Congress after his time in office, and he suffered a fatal stroke on the floor of the House chamber? We're going to give you the answer to that after we come back from our quick break.
Infamous ballot drop box.
Wanda's been arrested.
Around the world, people are aware of Wanda the ballot stuffer.
When fraud cancels you.
3 other Bridgeport Democrats were charged.
It's outrageous.
Take the freedom of our vote.
You gotta fight.
We're supposed to have quick justice.
Linda SYNC-O-WICZ is the election integrity watchdog in America's corner. Digging into the data to scrub the voter rolls clean, protecting your rights, respecting our Constitution. For years, Linda's mission-driven advocacy has helped preserve the Republic, exposing corruption.
The Chief State's Attorney's Office is not doing their job.
Speaking truth to power. It's pretty simple. One vote for one legal voter. FightVoterFraud.org.
Join the army.
Hi, and welcome back to SYNC-O-WICZ. My name's Linda SYNC-O-WICZ, the founder and CEO of Fight voter fraud. You are watching us on OBBM Network TV. Now, before we went to break, I asked our trivia question. Notice we've actually moved its spot. And the trivia question again was, which president served in Congress after his time in office and suffered a fatal stroke on the floor of the House chamber? Well, the answer is John Quincy Adams, and he was alive from 1767 to 1848, and he was our 6th president. Now, he was born under British rule. He was the son of a president and a president himself. Adams capped off his career by serving 18 years in Congress. So he was president, and then he became a congressman for 18 years. And on February 21st, 1848, after one of the first votes of the day, Adams was at his seat in the House chamber when he collapsed, having suffered from a massive stroke. Now, Adams was taken into the rotunda and placed on a sofa in front of the east door in hopes that some of the fresh air would help revive him. And seeing no improvement, however, Adams was next taken into the Speaker's office, where he died 2 days later. His memorable last words were, quote, "This is the last of earth, but I am composed." So that was John Quincy Adams. Again, that was information I had no idea. No idea. So now we're going to go on to our national information. And this comes from 90.5 WESA on September 6th. How 3 justices seeking another term on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled in pivotal election cases. Now, 3 state Supreme Court justices, all Democrats, are up for retention this November in Pennsylvania, in which voters either they vote yes or no on whether to keep the judges on the bench for another 10 years. If a no vote prevails for the judge, the governor and the state Senate could then select temporary replacement, and the seat would be up in 2027. Quote, "They blatantly issued partisan rulings from accepting late mail-in ballots to approving a bias-restricting map," unquote, and that comes from James Markley. He is the communications director for the Pennsylvania GOP. He said this of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court's Democratic majority. Quote, "And now they expect another 10-year term. Pennsylvanians don't want a decade more of liberal judicial overreach," unquote. Now you have Mitch Cates. He is the executive director of the Pennsylvania Democratic Party that said, quote, "Their rulings have been fair," unquote. I'm not so sure about that. Ask Greg Stenstrom, and he's been fighting in Pennsylvania in the courts for the last 4 years. You guys really need to vote no on all 3 of them in Pennsylvania. You need to make some changes so you can have election transparency, election integrity, and stop with all these judges that are just throwing up roadblocks when common sense should prevail. Okay, so people in Pennsylvania, vote this November. All right, next we're going to go to Vote Notes. Now, Vote Notes, as you know, is our section where we will give you a link on our website or through the video so that you can actually read the rest of the story. And this state that's involved in this, again, is Michigan. Now, checkmyvote.org founder responds to Michigan's Secretary of State Benson's effort to ban his voter roll cleanup efforts in the state. And the hearing is at Friday at 9:30 a.m. Now, we've actually had Afani come on and talk about, check my vote. He has been doing phenomenal work, and he has brought forward and he has testified multiple times about all the issues that are going on in Michigan. So the Michigan Secretary of State, she's also the one who violated the campaign laws when she announced that she was running for governor. There's so many different issues that are going on with this Secretary of State. So without the legislator saying that things need to be done, she wants to stop his work from happening, which basically is to stop it from showing that Michigan is not transparent with their voter rolls. They're not making sure the integrity is there. I mean, their campaign finance that they've hired a company to actually fix that didn't work out. Then they hired another company, and we found out in May that, the first company actually owned the second company. I mean, there's just so much stuff. Now she's going for this now, which is absolutely ridiculous. So that's our vote notes for the week. So one of the other things that we also do on this program is, believe it or not, I have a few opinions. Big surprise, right? Like I've said, one of the things we're trying to do is be balanced with the information that we're getting out there. And it is so difficult to do that. The news stories are so far apart, even on the same subjects. I like to be able to read an article, find out who the person is that's giving me the information. Because remember, if it's the number 2 or the number 3 person in the organization or from the state or whatever, they can always change their mind, or the one who's actually in charge could come out with something that's different. I just want facts. I want to know ahead of time who's telling me this information. And it is, again, very, very difficult. There's so many articles that I read about things that are going on, and the whiners, oh my goodness. I mean, it's whining from the headline to the first sentence, middle sentences, to the last sentence. And when I'm doing research, I don't want to hear all the whining. Really? Come on. Think about this. Think about our country, where our country started, why we broke away from England, why we wanted to have a voice for the people. And what we've actually set up in this country are 50 different states with 50 different ways of our voices being able to be heard through how our legislatures act, how our governors act, how our Secretary of States act. All we want to do in this country is to have every single person's vote heard. One vote for one legal voter. That means a U.S. citizen. And I've talked about this before. You want to come into our country, do it the right way. Hundreds of thousands of people have died through the years fighting for our country, for us to be able to have a voice. And we should not have our voice diluted by people from other countries that wouldn't stay in their own country. If you got problems in your country, you're fleeing to the United States instead of sticking up for your country. Come back the right way. Really, just come back the right way. And I cannot understand why we have a certain party that keeps fighting every single effort. And the ones that start saying, oh, there's no non-citizens voting. Oh, there's no double voters. There's nobody, that are ghost voters. Where's the evidence? Well, it's been very difficult to bring it forward when every turn is being fought, every time evidence is brought forward, and you have people with the legal authority saying, nah, we're not going to look into it. And trust me, we know at Fight Voter Fraud from experience about this. But finally, we have somebody in office who is saying that Americans should have their voice. And I truly believe in our commander-in-chief, with everything that is going on, is trying to do that for the American people. So stop whining out there at everything that's being done. Look yourself in the mirror and say, why am I doing this? Why am I fighting to have people who don't live in this country be able to stay here and be able to vote in our elections? We know why. So, as I said, I have no opinions. Well, maybe I have a few opinions. So what SYNC-O-WICZ, our program, is about educating people on election integrity. That's what we're about. We're trying to give you the stories on what's going on. We're trying to give you the facts as we see them, as we find them. And I want to thank everyone who has been listening to our program here on SYNC-O-WICZ. You can also find us on YouTube. We're on OBBM Network TV. This has been episode 24. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Rumble. And we would really appreciate your feedback. Sign up and share. Send an email to info@fightvoterfraud.org. Tell us what you think. We want to know. And if you've got a story you want us to talk about, let us know. So thank you again for watching SYNC-O-WICZ.